Hi, what's up, and welcome to this video. I hope that you're having a great day. And today I am painting a painting that is from a lesson that I bought online sometime last year. I don't even remember when, but I've been really meaning to go for it, and I finally decided to sit down and do it. So, this painting lesson is a lesson on Enterclass.com, and it is taught by a beautiful watercolor painter, and his name is Sergei Kurbatov. And I just think that he paints in this style that is so beautiful, and it's a style that I've really admired and wanted to experiment with more since just seeing his work and other people that paint in a very similar style too. And since I enjoy more of a loose style of watercolor painting, I was even more attracted to trying to figure out what other people's techniques are and practicing them for myself in hopes that I am able to adopt some of their techniques into my own watercolor style. So basically, this is me painting from the class and following along with the same painting that Sergei paints in the class. And so I can't take credit for finding this reference photo or even the colors or the style of this painting. So this is completely painted from this online course. And so I had no idea how this was going to turn out. But because I was following along with a great instructor, it's always just easier than trying it out for yourself from your own image and trying to just figure it out alone. And so, since this is my practice attempt at a painting from a course, I obviously don't know enough to explain exactly what I'm doing here since I was really just following along. But I did want to share some observations that I had while I was painting this, and I guess just observations about this particular style that really interests me and motivates me to continue to try working on this type of painting as I move forward in my own practice. So, the first thing that I found that was really interesting about the way that Sergei paints these types of paintings is that he uses a lot of wet on wet techniques, just lots of water and a lot of just placing paint down and letting it do its thing. And I guess that should be obvious looking at the end product of these types of paintings. But what surprised me about it was the fact that he used lots of water, but he used it in layers. And so I'm so used to going in and almost doing everything in one layer. I guess in some ways it is a way that I have developed watercolor painting on my own as a result of having very limited amounts of time. And I always found that I didn't really have a lot of time to paint, especially with a small child. And so I would want to finish my paintings in one sitting. And so what happened was, I think I noticed that my watercolor paintings started to become smaller and also looser and in all in one layer, if that makes sense, because I was trying to finish them all in one sitting. And so what was interesting about this was I wasn't able to finish it all at once. I actually painted this in two separate sittings in two different naps. So basically, it was during the first nap of the day and the second nap of the day that my toddler took. So I did it in two separate sittings because I couldn't finish it in one, and also because I would have to wait for the paint to dry, which was so interesting to me because unless you see somebody's process, you don't realize that that's what they do. But I was just so surprised that there were actually 3 layers of painting here. So there's the background wash, and then that had to dry, and then there was a layer of applying masking fluid, which I've never done before. I usually just have applied it straight to clean paper and then started painting on top of it. So it was really interesting to me that we had a wash down and then put masking fluid down. And then there was another wash of shadows in different parts of the painting. So it was just so interesting to me to work in layers, but also to work so fluidly in each of those layers. And the other and probably the most interesting thing to me about this style of painting is that he is able to take an image or a reference photo basically that has so much detail. So if you can imagine, since I can't show the reference photo here, mostly because I don't know if I have the copyrights to it, so I don't want to be sharing a photo that I'm not allowed to share. But the photo is just a photograph of a very narrow street in Marseille, France, and you can imagine that there's a lot of detail there. So the plaza with umbrellas and people in the distance that you can barely make out because it's dark and it's in shadow, all of the windows and the blinds on the buildings, a lot of wires that are going in between. And in order for somebody to take such a complicated and detail-filled photo and translate it into something that's simple with just enough details so that you can see what it is and then your brain can help you fill in the rest of it is so interesting to me, and is definitely something I noticed is a skill that probably takes a lot of experience and practice and time to develop, to be able to do without overthinking it. And so this exercise was difficult for me too, even though I was following along with him, because he's making very small, detailed marks on his paper. And even though he's doing that, there's really no way to follow exactly stroke for stroke what he's doing. So you do have to, or I had to, go back and look at the reference photo and make some decisions about which lines I was going to include and what details I was going to include as I was painting this. And I found that I was still trying to add a lot more detail than he was, and I could see myself falling into a place where I start to add way too much detail. And so I would just keep referencing back to what he was doing and how he was adding details, and it just ended up being so simple but effective. And I think of all of the techniques that I've seen in this lesson, that's probably the main one that was, number one, the most difficult for me. And the second is the most interesting and intriguing, so much so that I want to keep practicing it, because I think I tend to add too much detail. And I don't think I'm the only one to do this. But I think looking at a photo, it's really easy to get over detailed or get too into all of the minutia that we want to add into our paintings. But the beauty of something like this, the beauty of this style, is that there's very little detail. It's just pared down to simple shapes and shadows and very, very minimal line work that's done with the brush. And our brains, like I said, it fills in the rest. And there's something so, so beautiful about that, and something that I personally want to keep working at. So basically, this was really fun for me, and it's probably the most fun I've had painting in a little while. I paint regularly. I've been wanting to paint more, and I've especially been wanting to paint more in this style. And so this is just motivating me and inspiring me to keep going with this style or something similar to it. I believe that I can take a lot of the things that I've learned in this one particular lesson and adopt it into my own painting style and my own painting practice. And so I am really excited to try more like this. So maybe you'll see some of these elements show up more in the future as I continue painting. I hope that you enjoyed following along with my experiment and practice painting along with this lesson from this course that I bought. And I will see you in the next video.